Welcome to Six Pack Discussions, where Cody and Jared take on the biggest, most talked about headlines with logic, passion, and a six-pack of beer.
If you're listening, we challenge you to take an unbiased view of the world, because we know these conversations are complicated. So sit down, crack a beer, and welcome a new perspective. Okay, guys, we are live, Six Pack Discussions. We are actually doing a very first, we actually have a guest here, John Dillon. Arizona native?
Arizona native.
That is right, yeah.
Yeah. And so what are we talking about today, Jared? Why don't we bring John on today as an expert in the field here?
So one of the
flatter me.
one of the unique takes that we're going to do today. So Cody and I, we've touched on college before, but as we were discussing, after the podcast, we noticed in our very close friend group, obviously with John, that all three of us went to three completely different colleges. So essentially we're talking about three guys and three college experiences, right?
Yeah. And the main difference, John, you can tell us about your school, but maybe I'll give you mine, John, and then maybe Jared, you can clean up, round up there. So I went to a public school, ASU. You guys have probably heard of it. It's Arizona State University. It was the largest university when I was there. I think it was the first school to break 60,000 people. It's up to 70,000, but there's a couple schools bigger nowadays. I think Florida, Texas A&M, but still one of the biggest university campuses out there in Arizona, or just in the U.S.
Now, is that 60 to 70,000 people there on campus or online channels as well?
Online and on campus, but I think about 40, 45 are on campus. So it's still significant. And when we get into the numbers, we're talking about like a 20x to you guys.
Dude, I don't know what it's up to now, but when I graduated, there had only been 59,000 graduates in this history.
Yeah, I saw, and John, maybe you start now. Where did you go and kind of maybe your basic baseline,
That's crazy.
So I went to a small liberal arts college in northern Chicago called Lake Forest College. Lake is in the body of water.
Okay.
And forest as in?
The forest
around it? Well, people always assume that I'm saying Wake Forest.
Got it. Okay.
Interesting.
The big Division I school.
Okay.
And just to give you a size comparison, Cody says he was at 45,000 kids on campus. We have a total of 1,700.
Oh my gosh. It's smaller than our high school.
Yeah.
That we all went to.
It's very
Our high
small.
school had a total of 3,400.
Hold on, in your graduating class or all four classes, 1,700?
1,700, all four.
The entire campus. Like, John, you probably knew
Everyone.
a third of the people, like, at least by name.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
You see plenty of people. There were some kids who were like, where did that kid come from? But just about everybody, at least on a face basis, if not on a name basis. So,
and just for our listeners, that gives you probably already a different perspective. 45,000 people, 1,700 people. We both graduated with bachelor degrees.
Are you BS or BA? I know you're BA, right?
BS.
You're BS? Are you
BA.
BS or BA?
BA.
Okay.
And we'll get to why most liberal art colleges are BA normally. But go ahead, Jared, what about your experience?
Yeah, so I went to the Air Force Academy. In my graduating class, 865, 868, about 4,000-ish. The freshman and sophomore classes are a little bit bigger, but then the junior and senior classes, either by,
Attrition.
forced or attrition. Yeah.
Let's call it that.
Yeah.
screwing up.
And then I, too, have a BS. That is actually not an option to not have a BS as an academy graduate.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
It doesn't matter if you're psych major, business major, physics major, all BS.
Yeah, interesting. One of the things, and John, maybe help me out on this, and maybe you have a good idea on this, but when I was doing a little bit of research, what I found out was the main difference between liberal arts colleges, which John, of course, attended, and Air Force Academy is considered a liberal arts college. I know it's crazy. Did you know that?
I did not.
It's not a university. So the only other alternative is a liberal arts.
It's an academy, though.
I know. It's weird.
It's not its own service academy?
All 5 of the academies fell into a liberal arts college, right? Now, I'm guessing they're a subset, but it was ranked, when you look at the U.S. News rankings.
It's so weird that you said 5. You're technically correct, but that's weird about the 5.
I know.
There's 3 major ones.
Yeah.
So when you were looking it up, you're like, why is the Air Force? I was wondering, I'm like, there's no way the Air Force Academy is 18th. Oh, 18th in the liberal arts colleges, not compared to universities. And that's why they put them in that category. And the only reason is accreditation, I guess.
And I'm sorry, 18th and what?
Like out of all the universities or all the colleges ranked.
Liberal arts college.
So
right?
18th, which is good, right? Of course, top 20, top 25. Lake Forest was actually ranked as well. Pretty dang good. 328 out of there's 5,000 liberal
If
arts
not more.
colleges, right?
Yeah.
ASU's 121. Now that's against national universities, though. Different list. I didn't know there was two lists.
Neither did
Personally,
I just thought it was.
One
I thought it was
list.
just Forbes or U.S. News that does it, right?
I did look on both lists. I looked on US and
And
Forbes.
they both break them down like that.
Yes, they both.
Interesting.
They have liberal arts. Actually, USAFA was not even on the Forbes one this year for whatever reason. I don't think it was because of ranking. None of the military schools were on it, so I think they might have just not included.
Because usually West Point is always.
I thought so too.
Yeah, West Point's always higher.
It wasn't
than USAFA.
because of how they were. It wasn't because of they weren't being on the list. It was just because I think the military schools were just discluded for whatever reason. To your point, they're not a traditional liberal arts school.
No, they're not.
They're not.
Not even close.
So, John, I was going to, sorry, we got on a little rampant there, but I was going to ask you, the main difference that I saw between universities and liberal arts is liberal arts schools really try to do like a more of a general study and try to get you well-rounded. Do you think that was true or not? I don't know.
I'd say so. Because you get to play in a lot of different fields. There's a lot of, I'm going to say, free range, free selection with what you want to take as a class. Obviously, you have your general classes you have to knock out of the way, but then you still have to have a full schedule once you get those knocked out. So I think I knocked out all of my requirements outside of the stuff from my major by the end of my sophomore year.
So, and this is just my clarification because I have a little bit different experience. So, do you get the creative freedom, like, oh, I want to take XYZ class, or is your dean saying, no, that's cute, you're going to take ABC class? As far as the well-rounded, because in order to truly become well-rounded, you have to take classes that you don't want to take. That's my interpretation, at least.
So I'll give you an example. I had to take at least one science class, and so like chemistry was the class I took. Never used chemistry outside of my schooling days ever. As far as well-rounded, great thing to be well-rounded at and learn a little bit on, but have not applied one thing I've learned in chemistry at college to real world.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it was very very nice to be able to do what I wanted and go pick the classes that I wanted. And obviously, as long as you're doing it, you get your requirements for your major. You can do whatever else you want. A lot of philosophy classes at my college in particular. They had a whole department dedicated to teaching about philosophy, from critical thinking on philosophy to the logic of philosophy. There was even a class that I could not get in because everybody else jumped into it, called Philosophy of Sport, where it broke down why sports is good for the
Psyche or
for
culture,
psyche,
probably.
culture.
Yeah.
What was your average class size?
That's probably the biggest thing that I would say. Average class size, never maxed out more than probably 25 in a class.
Yeah.
And the fewest people I ever had in a class was probably about 12. So really always had a good relationship with the professors and whoever was the assistant professor. Not that there were really that many of those, but there were a few. And they, I knew all my professors on a first name basis outside of the classroom.
Oh, wow.
So during their office hours, whenever I need anything, just walk in there. And Siobhan Maroney, she was my advisor. And I had a really good relationship with her.
And what was your major?
Politics.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was the main thing I saw. I think the critical difference, especially for listeners that are maybe even still in high school or debating going back to college, depending on those two different types of schools, liberal arts and university, is I think that I would say the biggest differentiator is class size. So you guys are both coming from 10 to 20 people in a classroom, right? Jared, most of your classes are about that size?
I would say as a freshman, sophomore,
Bigger, of course.
they were probably 30.
Yeah, but let's say your average of 4 years, 20.
Yeah, I would feel comfortable saying all my classes average about 20.
Yeah, and so like if you took my averages, you're going from like
Probably add a couple zeros, right?
You're going from 300 in my freshman year, right, down to 15 to 20 in my senior year, right? And so you guys have never been in a 300-person classroom, a 200-person classroom.
I've never been just a number.
I had a third of John's people in his school in one classroom in some cases. Yeah. Is that not crazy?
No. You had John's entire graduating class then.
In one classroom.
That's a good summarization, yeah.
3 times a year.
That's such a weird
experience, right? And so,
wow.
Universities, though, and the one thing that I was going to bring up is universities have kind of been more research associated. So a lot of their degrees are more science focused. So it was interesting when you said that you were forced to, and I can see that being very different now. When you said that you were forced into a Bachelor of Science, that's very different than a liberal arts school. I had either choosing, but at ASU, it was kind of like, hey, our focuses are on engineering, some sciences, business, and those are all science type degrees, right? And they kind of like say, hey, you have the arts option if you want more of like a more rounded or just kind of a way to explore multiple majors. And then in your last year or two, you can kind of choose one. But we didn't have like, it wasn't like, and this is what we're going to get into, very little structure probably from my side compared to your guys' side.
So you want to know something funny? So you just made reference as far as ASU is known for X, Y, and Z majors. You know what I never really understood is every university is seemingly known for X, Y, and Z majors. Yeah. But so you're a hiring authority, right? We're working for Willis Incorporated, and I graduated from the University of Kentucky, who you have no idea what they're known for. And then John graduated from the University of California, and you have no idea what they're known for. Like, does it really matter? So I was like, oh, I went to ASU, and they're known for engineering and business. And like,
I don't think it matters for like when you're going out into the world, but you're probably just going to have a competitive advantage against somebody else, right, in that same field. Right, you're just going to be able to speak to it better if you have a bunch of professors. Like if I was going to say I'm going to be somebody in economics, I'm probably going to go to Stanford, right? I want to go study under University of Chicago, who had Milton Friedman, right? You're going to go to a spot where I can say, yeah, I studied their economics, and I'm going to go into that field, and I'm probably going to have just a better understanding of that field because the school seems to invest in that.
Yeah, but you actually just used Chicago, University of Chicago, obviously very prestigious.
And
Stanford, very prestigious.
In economics.
No. But they're prestigious universities as a standalone, right?
Okay.
I would say any degree from those.
Okay.
So that's what I never really understood, you know?
Any Ivy League type thing.
Okay.
And
funny that we just mentioned two non-Ivy Leagues, but we're talking about Ivy League caliber, right?
Yeah. I mean, Stanford's West Coast Ivy League. I mean,
yeah, pretty much.
And University of Phoenix is the online Ivy League. I get it. Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I just always found that so funny because obviously you have a lot of friends that graduate from a lot of different colleges, as do you. And it was also always so funny to me because every university, like, oh, and they're really known for their architecture program or their engineering program or their.
You're right. Yeah, does it really matter?
Doesn't matter because it's all about the overall university's reputation, not the individual major, in my opinion. And maybe I'm thinking too myopic here, but I always find that a little funny.
John, when you were going through school, one thing I saw is that sometimes liberal art colleges, because of their small population size, feel similar to high school.
Oh, hell yeah.
What do you think?
Little drama or what?
What are you thinking there?
Oh, hell yes.
So, give us some examples if you don't mind.
How is this relevant to the conversation?
I want to hear some examples of just like...
Dude, our listeners are dying right now.
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah, because now you're like, how is this relevant? So give us an example of high school where there was something where you're like, holy shit, did not know this was going to end up
Since this is my first time, you guys can explain ground rules to me. Are we allowed for profanities and obscenities on this?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Okay.
We drink beer is the central premise of this podcast. You think we're going to police our language here?
Well, I was just fucking asking, all right? So let's go ahead. Fine.
Give us an example.
Fine. Because you go to such a small college, everybody's chasing the same girl, and so you're jockeying for position constantly. You're all partying at the same spot.
For position.
Dude, it's a race. It's a fucking race.
How crazy is that?
You're jockeying for position. You are also having to, unlike high school, when the party's happening, if it's the one big party, everybody's there. So if you made a mistake the last weekend, like somebody on this podcast did, and throw up on a girl's shoes, she's going to be there. So, and she'll never talk to you ever again. Because you shot your shot and you missed wildly into the stands. Now, some of the other stuff, like all the jocks hang out together, like the football team was really tight. All the chemistry kids were really tight. And then all the...
That's a click.
I didn't know it was a click.
The chemistry click.
It was true. And then you had all your international kids that would hang out. Any kid that was a foreigner where they were in the exchange program.
Yeah.
They all clicked together. And they all clicked together with people from the same country or as a big group. It wasn't real. They really didn't go outside their group at all. We had one group, the Georgians from Georgia, the country, not Georgia, the state.
Yeah.
That were always out till like 2 a.m. in the quad, smoking cigarettes from dusk till dawn.
Just talking philosophy or something.
I don't know what they were doing. Probably plotting war. I don't know.
Oh my gosh. So
I had a Georgian kid in my class,
have any
my graduating
Georgian.
class.
Interesting. No, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that sounds a little high school-esque, I would say. The
Very high school.
little bit jockeying for, I guess you said the lady there, the one that everyone thought was nice.
Yes.
Like great personality.
Very
Great personality.
polite, perhaps.
Yes.
Okay, and then cliquey.
Everybody knew each other's business.
Yeah. Did you feel like there was like camaraderie? I think like everyone
Camaraderie,
felt, yeah. Did you feel like it was like kind of like high school? Like, remember there's like their spirit
Almost a
days?
school pride.
Yeah. Did you feel like it was really close? Like everyone was kind of like, hey, you know what? It's Friday football day. We're like you're going to guarantee see 90% of the student body on a football day.
It depended on the event. So on a homecoming, 100%. Everybody's out there. You got the hockey team, all the Canadians on the hockey team start drinking beers at 6 a.m, showing up to the tailgate with trash can lids, beating
Sounds
their
fun.
chest. You had the sorority programs, which were always fun, where they would put on events for
Floats
us.
and stuff.
Yeah, they would do that type of stuff. You had the charity events that everyone would attend, such as Relay for Life, which is a cancer fundraiser where it goes from like 6 p.m. till 6 a.m. the next day. And the whole goal is to just raise money. And everybody's at that event. It's a really fun event. You pull couches into the gym, TVs, everybody's just having a great old time.
What are they all doing? Like, what's kind of the...
So some people, the rule is somebody from your team, your little sponsorship team, always has to be walking. Always has to be walking for the relay.
And that's the idea, to get money.
Yep.
And do you tag in, tag out your
tag
team?
in, and then when you're not walking, you are what's the word I'm looking for? You are playing cornhole. You're throwing bags. It's the one event every year where there was no beer allowed because it was a school function event, and the school didn't want anybody getting drunk at that type of event.
That makes sense. Okay.
It was probably the
You
funnest
played
event.
cornhole without beer?
Trust me, I didn't say that part was
What kind
great.
of communist college is that?
I agree. But at the same time, though, it was a liability thing for the school.
I get it.
Hockey games were always fun. The camaraderie was there, and you'd always hang out with your boys. They want to go to the hockey game, walk down the campus and go to the hockey arena, and vice versa whenever we had something going on. So
Fun.
definitely a lot tighter than just the big, and no offense to you, Cody, than the big public school where there's really no, like you had people that are, just from what I've seen, you have people that like to go that stuff, and then you got people that don't. Everybody's really bought into that whole mantra of Forrester Forever was our catchphrase.
Yeah.
Is that a thing for your college or for just for your graduating class?
For the college. Literally, that's their slogan, Forrester Forever. And you have people that graduate from Lake Forest that end up working there after they graduate.
Forever.
I know a few people that have turned right around and started working for that college the day after graduation.
Wow.
How fun is that? So, Jared, from your perspective,
I'm on my second beer. Are you?
oh yeah, let's do a little beer rating.
Almost.
Okay.
So, John, first time, 20 minutes in, what we like to do is we've had our first one. While we still have kind of a fair palate, you could say, before our second or third beer.
Yeah.
I mean, I
We
ate
like
a burrito before this. So I know about that.
Well, I'm just saying, like, not 3 beers in. What we like to do is to rank the beer that we're doing. We do a new beer every week. We've never had this. This is from Huss Brewing Co. Juicy IPA. Jared, I don't know if you want to describe the can and read the little summary there.
Yeah, man, not the biggest fan of this can. It's kind of weird. It's predominantly white with kind of this, I would say psychedelic, but almost this
I was thinking that too.
rainbow road. But instead of like the traditional rainbow colors, you're using almost desert colors to the
It's like a
purples to the light.
It's like a sherbet, I'd say.
Yeah, kind of interesting. I have a fun little story. A super juicy IPA brewed with the new Cryo Pop hops. Okay. El Dorado as well as Amarillo hops, bursting with candied pineapple, sweet orange, stone fruit, and melon with a smooth, soft mouthfeel and lingering bitterness. Oh, man. Adding this cryo pop to this beer gives a true pop to the aroma and flavor of this super juicy IPA. Man.
So, John, one thing we've always said about those things, I would say 8 times out of 10, they almost say the exact same thing with just different adjectives.
And that's lowballing it.
Yeah.
That's lowballing.
The poor guys, these beer companies, they all hire the exact same ad firm.
They copy and paste, and then they right click on several words, and they say synonym.
Exactly how Jared got his degree.
They're probably using that chat AI is what they're doing.
Oh, man.
So we then rank it. We do what we call
6.3er. All right.
6.3 APV. Yeah. We then rank it between 1.0 to 5.0, 5.0 being the best. Give you a little bit of idea. What we try to do is say, hey, a beer that you would drink on a daily basis that you would just pick out a beer, that's going to be kind of like your average.
Yeah,
right?
That's your 2s and 3s.
Yeah, so let's say like your Tecate Light, which I know you like, right? Do you like Tecate Light? Or sorry, Dos Equis. You're a Dos Equis fan. That would be like your 3.0. I'm going to order that. I enjoy it. I'm a fan of it. Anything below that means, hey, you know what? I'll try it out, but I'm probably not going to order it again. This is something that, hey, you know what? Anything above a 3.0 would be something that I would order again, and I wouldn't mind even maybe buying a 6-pack to share with some buddies. So,
that makes sense.
Yeah, how about you go first? What are you thinking here?
I like it. It's not it. I'm somebody that doesn't drink IPAs regularly.
Yeah,
fair.
IPAs come with a headache, so I don't partake in them usually. However, this one is not too strong in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of bite on it. It's
100%.
Really smooth for being an IPA.
Sometimes IPAs have that back of the throat kind of.
Yeah, it's not too hoppy.
Yeah.
Which I like hoppy, but it's not too hoppy. There's just enough there to let you know it's an IPA. I'd give this, like, again, I'm not an everyday type beer, but I'm going to give this a 3.9.
Dang.
Wow. Okay.
That's so funny. I'm thinking the exact same thing. We'll let Jared rank last because he is the IPA guy, but it's weird. I was on your boat. I am not an IPA guy. We've done this now for a year and a half. I've transitioned into, I like the different tastes because they're dramatic. It's Tecate Light, Dos Equis, Corona Light. Like,
give me my Mexican beer all day.
Let's just say that those all are like within a point of each other.
With all on a 0.1 of each other.
This is a 4.0 beer for me all day long. This is a good IPA. It's got a little fruit to it, which I like. You taste that little fruity taste to it.
Yeah.
I like that. And it's not too hoppy to your point. I'm in 4.0. We're on the same page.
Yeah. So honestly, John, for your first rating, I think you have quite a refined palate. Clearly, you're an experienced beer drinker.
You've had a beer.
You've had one or two. No, I think I'm actually right there with you guys. I actually would go a little bit higher. I think this is probably one of the better beers we've had. This is probably like a 4.2 land for me. I think this is really solid. I think it's got a lot of fun, very light, juicy flavors. I'm not in love with the name. I would feel a little.
It feels like that old gum.
Can you imagine?
Fruit.
No. Can you imagine going to your bartender? Yeah, can I get your juicy IPA? So I hate the name.
Yeah.
But as far as taste, if you allow me to just point or maybe give me a number, like, yeah, give me number 13, I'll order this all day long. I don't know if it can get me to say, can I get a juicy IPA?
But Huss does make good beer. I do like Huss's beer.
Arizona based.
No, man. Who's our go-to beer that we always go hard on? Breckenridge, right?
Well, Voodoo Ranger by, we drink a lot of Voodoo Ranger by, who's that by? The guy up in Colorado.
Well, yeah, Breckenridge.
It's not Breckenridge, though.
Breckenridge. Definitely, we've never had a Breckenridge beer, Jared, so I don't know where you're coming from here.
I've drank a lot of Breckenridge beer.
Okay.
Maybe I'm getting them confused.
Yeah.
But we always slam Santan.
We do a lot of Santan.
We slam them, I feel like. I feel bad.
So getting back to college here, nice job, guys. Juicy IPA from Huss. But getting back to college here. So, John, I got to visit you a couple times on campus there. And one of the things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things that I always felt when I went there, and I was a little jealous, honestly, because of my college experience, is it felt family-esque. Oh. It felt like you were not only close to the student, but you probably knew their parents or their siblings that may be coming to the college soon or maybe already graduated. How How, because you have that kind of personality where you get to know people pretty well and you're just easy to, of course, have a conversation with like this. How much do you think that is because I know you and I saw your experience, or do you think that was overall a liberal arts college experience?
I can't speak if it's an overall liberal arts college experience. I just know that.
Fair pushback.
Yeah. I mean, I think my college experience was unique for how because you're not wrong. It is a very family-oriented place, to the point where you guys have all met Dobie. His dad drove down from Wisconsin because we're only probably an hour from where he lives in Wisconsin. And his dad drove down on the Harley, smoked a cigar with us watching the girls' softball game, threw back 2 beers, and then, all right, boys, see you later. Got to go back home up to Gina and put some brats on the grill. Gone.
That was his voice.
Oh, straight Wisconsin, dude. Looks like you guys ever see the super fans from Saturday Night Live when Chris Farley used to do it? You need to look it up. He looks just like them. Straight up old school, like Ditka mustaches, big aviator shades. And he talks like this because he's from Wisconsin. He needs to make sure you know what's going on.
I love that. So right there, like that's an experience that I just, and Jared, you can pipe in here and say if you had anything similar there. But at ASU, there was not like that whole family thing. And I think it was actually the opposite. Like I think it was purposely opposite. Everything was very independent driven, right? Figure out your own class schedule. Show up to class if you want to. Don't show up to class if you don't want to. F or A, we're not going to help you figure it out, right? Everything was the exact opposite of that. Like there wasn't like hey, we're trying to get you to graduate. Where my school was like, hey, we don't care if what we're trying to do is build resilience, it almost felt like.
Yeah.
What about you?
That's funny. It's a little different than what I experienced. I actually was late to class one time because an upperclassman made me do push-ups till I remembered their name. I've never met this individual. And then my teacher
made you do push-ups.
Told my commander that I had an unexcused tardy, and then I was restricted for a month. So little different.
Can you define restriction, please?
Yeah, you see that thing in the sky? It's called sun. I wasn't allowed to see it for a month, basically. No, I'm kidding. You just weren't allowed to leave. You just weren't allowed to leave campus there. So a little different, but one thing that I didn't realize that I think I made fun of you for whenever you were at ASU is one thing that you would often tout is that you were a 4-year graduate.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, that's cute, man. Like, isn't that kind of the norm?
I looked at the numbers.
And
90%.
And that's what I didn't realize is that actually is an accomplishment because, look, the academies, 5 of them, do a fantastic job of kicking you when you're down, right? In a lot of different facets. However, they do baby the crap out of us from how regimented they keep you.
Yeah.
Right? So I went to my academic advisor and like, here's your schedule for the next 4 years for your classes.
I have no idea what that means. Like, I was like this. Go pick the classes on an online little portal. And
I remember you explained this to me, like, because you were like, refresh.
And if you fuck up, you might be on for the 5th year because you didn't pick the right class.
Because it's only offered, And that's why I think they babied us at times.
Yeah. And real quick, John, you were about to say, so you had to just log on and pick the classes and hopefully that it fit your course map or your major map.
I'd plan out what I was going to do with my advisor, and they'd say, all right.
Would you sit down with somebody?
Yep. I'd sit down with my advisor.
That's more than what I had.
Go through that, and they'd say, all right, log into the portal. Don't be late because the class will be gone.
Would they give you a list, though?
Yeah, we'd go through. We'd look at what the syllabuses were.
Yeah, see, that's nicer than what I had. I didn't have a list.
We went through the syllabuses, and they say, okay, this one will be a good one for you for your major, and this one's good for your major too, and then you need 2 more classes. All right, which ones do you want to fuck around with? Was essentially what it was.
Yeah.
That's very different. Like I said, it was literally handed to me. Oh, you want to be a business major? These are the classes you take.
And it felt like right here, that was, let's just say I'm the extreme, Jared's the extreme, you're in the middle there. Like I would say, like Jared seemed like it was pretty
literally
much
the term liberal. I had freedom.
Well, I had probably the ultimate freedom.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm the extreme on the complete opposite side. Like, do whatever you want. You could be here for 8 years if you mess up.
But you're not going to be a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. You will just be getting your bachelor's.
Yeah.
Jared pretty much is like, hey, there's no way in hell that you can't do this in 4 years unless you're an idiot.
But Jared,
Right.
you know, Jared will say that he was a 4-year graduate when in reality, Jared is a 5th-year graduate.
Yeah,
That is true.
We don't bring that up, but
Yeah, I was too stupid to get directly in. One thing I
Jared
found
was a
interesting-
4.0 in college, guys.
one
or
thing-
high school.
One thing that I found really interesting though is, correct me if I'm wrong, but the norm for a full-time student at a public or a traditional liberal arts is 12 credit hours. Is that correct?
that's the minimum required to be full time.
Okay, and help me understand the left and right boundary. So, left obviously being that minimum for 12 hours.
That means it's just the minimum.
Would you be? Is it normal to take 18 or 21?
16 or 15 is the median.
Okay, so the median at the academy is probably averaging 18 every semester.
Yeah,
Freshman through senior year.
My
I think
credits,
that's what you have to take.
my credits
Huh?
were
I
very
had
different than
I
your
have I had 2 semesters where I was 21.
Me too.
What equaled the credit for you guys? And I'll tell you.
3 classes, one. I'm sorry, 3
One
credits,
class.
1 class.
Yeah, except for science ones, they had like the
The
extra
lab.
1 class, 1 credit for me.
No,
Yes.
Oh, that's unique.
The math doesn't add to what the standard is, but literally my credit equals the same amount as you guys.
so you graduated with less than 120 hours, 120 credit, because that's what you have to have
Yes.
to get an undergraduate degree. Oh, that makes it more sense, to be honest. But here's the thing for me. So what they would do is that to get your 3 credit hours, you have to spend so many hours in the classroom. So some classes, I would have 1 class a week, but it would be 3 hours long. Or I would have a class that was an hour long, that was 3 days a week. Or I would have a class that was twice a week for an hour and a half. So really what it is you got to get 3 hours a week to get your class credit or 3 credit hours.
See, that's funny. So we had M&T day. So there would be 1 week where you'd have 3 M day classes, and there'd be the following week where you have 3 T day classes, and they just alternate.
And how long was the class though?
Hour and a half.
And how long were your classes on
Hour
average?
to hour and a half, I think.
John?
Depended.
Depending on the
So
lab. If it was a lab, it was.
if
little
you
longer.
had so there are a couple different ways our classes were set up. The easiest one to describe is a hour-long class that you met 3 times a week. That was one type of model.
Yeah, that was fairly common for me too.
The second one was a class you had for an hour and a half and met twice a week.
The same thing was I just said, yeah.
And then there was the one that went for 3 hours and you met once a week.
I'm going to hit you. That was literally what he said.
I said the exact opposite.
I'm trying to figure out.
He said it in the exact opposite order. I was literally thinking to myself as he was saying, I swear to God, if he says 1 time a week, I'm going to hit him.
Well, you didn't hit me.
I even
'cause you're a
tried to like
bitch.
help out, and I was like, "Hey, well, that's what I said." And you're like, "Hold on." I was like,
and then if he was going to follow it up.
Well, you
and then there
always
was
cut
also
me
this-
off,
there
dude.
was all
So
the-
how am I supposed to respect
There
you?
was,
love it.
There
I
was
love
all
it.
this one class where I met every 2 weeks, but we met for 6 hours.
"That's so great. That's so great." Hey, so guys, listening
I
right
love it.
now,
I love it.
Suck my ass.
yeah. So this right here is we've known. Luckily, all 3 of us have known each other for probably
20 years?
15
Over 15
to
years.
20 years.
Yeah.
15 to 20 years. This is a conversation that probably happens maybe once a month, or maybe not honestly, used to happen once a month. We used to do it more often. Now we have like families and stuff and what you could call obligations. But
We built our own prisons.
yeah. Oh, damn. I like that. John.
Shout out, Tracy.
So something getting a little deeper here. This is kind of fun. This is great. I think me and John are gonna love this at Jared's expense.
Oh, I can't wait.
So John, could you tell me the ratio between males and females at Lake Forest?
Fuck you. That's why, honestly, I was biting my tongue whenever he was talking about, yeah, we all had to chase the one girl. You have no fucking clue. Good.
So
I
guys-
guarantee Jared, we've seen the quality that comes out of the Air Force Academy.
Top of the line, Jared Jones, one of them.
Seriously.
So
It's not much better than what his was.
no. So I'm not saying quality, just percentage wise. Where we're just going
Yeah,
stats
and it's
here.
not much better than his.
No, it's actually much better. It is the complete opposite.
It didn't feel like it.
Okay. Lake Forest has a higher percentage of women looking for a 4-year degree than men. They actually have a 60-40 split. So there is 40% males, 60% women.
I'm just going to go on record and say it didn't feel like that.
Okay. So if you're college experience is about maybe finding that mate for life, that wife for life. John had a larger population to choose from, you could say. I was, American public, 50-50. 50-50, nothing special. Jared, your experience...
80-20.
Yeah, it's actually 75-15.
The remaining 10 were undefined.
Sorry. 75-15. That's right?
No, it's not. What happened to the other 10%?
Buddy, this is second beer math.
25, I'm sorry.
Holy shit.
So I only have one number here, and the other number is not right.
The fact that you corrected yourself. Yeah, dumbass. 75-15.
Yeah. No, that's right? No.
The other 10
Yeah, okay, what did I say? 80-20? Yeah, that feels about right.
75-25.
Yep.
Just for our listeners, 75% male, 25% female. That means, Jared, you didn't have really a pool for a married life. It was like you're going to be marrying a guy, probably.
Well, actually, not at college.
No. Usually you get married after college. Yeah.
No. What I meant by as far as at college, it's actually really interesting, and I'd be curious to actually poll our Colorado listeners. So my uncles, they both went to Colorado State, CSU, and they all freaking hated academy guys. Because a lot of the girls from CSU, CU, Colorado College, et cetera, like a lot of the neighboring schools actually at parties would want to date Air Force grads.
Well, yeah, you have a stable income and you're never around.
Win-win.
For everybody.
Yeah. They're like, hey, you think God, this guy hopefully gets
at college, it wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But in the state of Colorado.
Interesting.
And that's what's actually kind of weird is because all the other neighboring colleges know our lives suck, so they actually will invite us to their parties through our network or whatever. So that's
how crazy, right?
Yeah. They just feel bad. It was a sympathy fight, man.
When I saw those numbers,
like your days suck so bad Monday through Friday. Here, have a beer.
When I saw those numbers, I thought it was hilarious. One other thing, kind of cool. And John, maybe you can talk about this a little bit. When you went to Lake Forest, did they ever kind of talk about, because this was something big at ASU, and you guys have probably seen advertisements because we're in Arizona, of course. But one thing that Arizona tries to really tout, and not the reason I went there, of course, it was because it was a local college or university. But one thing that I noticed in their marketing is high median incomes for their graduates. So what they try to do is they say, hey, you know what? If you come to our college, our degree program means something.
I didn't know that.
And you will go out and you'll have a higher starting salary than the guy over there at that college. And what they actually will do is they'll do a 10-year median income. So they'll say, hey, after 10 years, add it all up and your median income, what ASU touts is $111,000 for the 10-year median income.
And which is significant. Help put that in reference. What is average?
So what they say is, hey, you know what? Out of all the people that graduate from our undergraduate program, right? Now here's where ASU gets a significant boost because of their engineering program. A lot of their undergraduates are going to their engineering program, going out into the field and becoming software engineers who earn pretty good incomes. So what they say is, hey, you know what? You go graduate in 10 years. If you have an ASU degree to your name, you're going to be earning about $111,000 on average, right? As a graduate after 10 years. And in most cases, it's going to be in year 10, you're going to be earning that. But I can imagine some people having some higher years between year 1 and year 10. Does that help you out, Jared?
No, it does.
Okay.
So what that was is just an interesting, because USAFA, they too like to tout, various figures like that. And the majority of graduates remain in the military, and obviously they're going to be officers. At 10 years, you're going to be a major, making pretty good money. So that was, I just remember on all the recruiting material, like, oh yeah, in 10 years,
you're probably going to be you're probably going to be still in the military for what, the majority, 50%, you think?
Or dead.
Oh, I would probably say.
I'm sorry, Jared. That was a bad joke.
Damn,
that was
unnecessarily
morbid.
Dark.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I would probably say, man, shit, I wish I knew the date on it. I didn't know we were going to go there. I would probably say 60%, 65% are still in the military after graduation from 10 years. Yeah. And as a major, I mean, you're probably pulling in $130, $135.
Okay. Now that's probably with your
Oh,
benefit package.
that's all. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't know if this is considered benefits, but it says salary.
So what I mean is, so your base housing allowance, your
those aren't normal. Salary is one word. It doesn't include your benefits, which is allowances.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I meant by salary is like the money that you're able to spend at the end of every month. I apologize. There was clearly a misunderstanding. I thought you were talking about like including healthcare and shit like that. I was just talking about money that hits your account.
Yeah, so salary. And now I get the allowance thing in the military is a little bit different. Most jobs don't have that.
What?
You guys get stipends. And all that fun stuff,
35
too.
to 40% of your pay isn't taxed.
So it's funny. This is probably exactly why the U.S. Air Force Academy does not have those numbers, because it's so complicated on your guys' pay structure.
Yeah.
So they have that, and they also don't say you have any debt. So the cool thing that they also tout is that your debt's going to be fairly low.
At ASU?
Yeah, so $7,200 is the average debt of a graduate.
Wow.
So not bad.
Really?
Yeah, $7,200.
My wife graduated ASU, as you know, and that was not the case whatsoever.
Now again, average. Your wife as well, ASU, debt.
Yeah, that
Probably a little higher than
that
7,200.
fucking master's degree.
Yeah, kills you.
I think
Undergraduate.
I think they literally charge like per breath, per roll of toilet paper. I think they found a
Per
charge.
square of toilet paper.
So it's pretty cool, John. So I did your numbers as well. So for your school, right, for Lake Forest, it ranked lower on the Forbes list. Yet the 10-year salary, $119,000.
Wow.
Median income for a 10-year, after 10 years of graduating, and the debt $7,100. So actually less debt, but higher income.
I wonder what the median income of family is that went there.
So the difference.
You guys are expensive as shit, right?
We are.
Yeah.
And I went to school with people that don't have a pot to piss in. And
Yeah, but then
the average.
Yeah, the government.
yeah,
Okay,
and then our school has great programs for scholarships, grants,
Yeah.
and FAFSA, is that what it's called?
FAFSA, I believe, right?
FAFSA.
FAFSA.
That's a federal program for all schools.
Yeah, and they get really good money out of that too. I know tons of people that leverage that.
So I was looking at dollar amounts, and Jared, I think you're in a complicated situation because you were on a scholarship there, so it's not like you had out of pocket expense for your tuition. John, I saw Lake Forest. This is nowadays money, right? So we're 10 years out of college now almost. So, but nowadays Lake Forest
shit.
admission cost
We're
is
getting
about
old, boys.
$50,000 a year. Yeah. Tuition doesn't cost, no
Room
living
and board.
expenses, none of that. $50,000 a year. Now that's on par with most private, non-for-profit liberal arts schools.
Not for profit.
$50,000 a year.
Check out the endowment. Tell me that's not for profit.
Mine, I think it was $15,000. So
Per year?
Yep, ASU, $15,000 a year. When I went there, it was less. And then yours again. For whatever reason, the Air Force doesn't like to make any of their information public. That one is not public information. Probably because
it's taxpayer funded.
So what it is the number that's often shared is, so guys, in all 5 service academies, I don't know that to be true about the 2 ones, the Merchant Marine Academy and Coast Guard, but you essentially have a free pass your freshman and sophomore years. As soon as you say present for class, your junior year, you are therefore committed for 2 years as you finish up school and then 5 years as a commissioned officer.
We signed a contract.
No,
Well,
there's no signature.
you're just committed.
You don't sign as officers. You don't ever
You
sign
don't have
a
to
contract.
sign at all.
So, Jared, quick question for you because this got referenced earlier. You were mentioning the attrition rate and how you guys come in with a heavy class and then each year it gets lower and lower.
Yeah.
For those that don't know what the academies are like, and obviously you haven't made it through, what's the biggest reason the attrition rate's so high?
People are soft.
Physically or mentally or both?
All the above. Yeah, they're soft.
Can you
Yeah,
elaborate?
they make it incredibly easy for you to quit. I mean, like I said, they do a fantastic job of kicking you when you're down, but they also do baby you in other aspects, as we already alluded to earlier. But
So which year was the
I
hardest year?
remember, heck, this was my freshman year on Silver Saturdays. You ask any grad, Silver Saturdays suck. Especially, you look for Blue Saturdays. That's when you have to actually leave and see the sun. But Silver Saturdays suck, and they're called training weekends. You do various exercises, and I'll never forget, you're doing push-ups, and you literally don't have the strength to lift up your fork at lunch, and then you get to go get your ass beat after lunch again. I mean, it just sucks, man. You're just mentally and physically weak if you quit.
Yeah, John, I like to do a lot of metaphors because for our listeners, like sometimes it's like so out of reach, right? I think this is out of reach for me. Like, I'm trying to think, how does this connect to me? Like, I've never been in a situation where I had to do push-ups, could not lift up my spoon. I have never been in that position. John, have you been in that position? Probably not.
I'd like to say no.
Okay. So I'm trying to think right now, what would it be like to have a lot of structure, right, but still want to quit? And I'm trying to think right now, maybe for most people, I'm guessing most people have had a gym membership at one point in time.
Mm-hmm. I would hope.
At one point in time. A membership doesn't mean they're going to the gym. Okay. Well, I used to work at a gym. You sign up somebody, and the very first thing that most people do when you sign up at a gym, they try to get you to sign up with a personal trainer. And the reason to do that is to have structure, to have Tuesdays and Thursdays to work out. Because if you show up to that, Tuesdays and Thursdays, to get your ass kicked, you will have results. Right? You, just by showing up, if you did 9 push-ups or 10 push-ups, does it really matter? But you showed up, you did it. Most guys maybe they did 9 push-ups. But as long as they didn't quit and didn't show up for the next Tuesday, you probably are going to graduate. And I was trying to think through it. It's not the quantity of effort. It's just that you will continually to provide effort. Mm-hmm. And that's really where, if you think about anybody that's trying to, meet a personal fitness goal, just by showing up for a year, 2 years, 4 years in college, you will probably graduate because the structure is there. Mm-hmm. If you show up to the personal training sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you probably will lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why, look, I know, I guess they were removed from the list. But traditionally, Forbes, U.S. News, they always have the 3 service academies fairly highly ranked, right?
Yeah.
But
maybe I wasn't searching properly, but
I'm not trying to poke holes in that. What I'm saying is that school, me and my buddies, we often talk about this. Yes, at times the concepts, I mean, hell, I remember as a second semester senior, as a business major, I was taking astronautical engineering in the morning and aeronautical engineering in the afternoon. I'm like, kiss my ass. I'm just trying to learn about EBITDA, man. Come on. Like, right? But anyways, what I was trying to say there is it's incredibly hard to fail, right? Your teachers are so damn willing to help you. They literally just want to try to get you to your breaking point. They want to make you fall on your breaking point, and then they want to bring you back up.
They're going to put a hand down.
But as long as you don't physically quit,
yeah,
you're going to pass out school.
So, John, when you were in school, did you feel like you had like a good structure around that too? Or were they like, who cares if he comes back? Was there kind of like that idea? What do you think?
I mean, from the athletic side, obviously there were people that cared if I came back or not.
Of course.
From a teacher side, I don't think I think they cared, but not enough to be like, unless.
Did they ever reach out and say, "Hey, let me help you get your C to a D or a B"?
No, you had to be the one to show the initiative. You had to show the initiative. Take any opportunity they give you to show the initiative. That, hey, you got to be on this paper, but I'll let you rewrite it if you look at what I want you to change as far as just your structure and how you did certain things in your argument. I'll bump you up to an A-.
Oh, wow.
Like things like that. And I know that's probably something you're like, you lucky asshole.
I would say like just different situations.
What I wanted to ask to that point, I think it ties in nicely, is just tests. The way tests were taken, there was no standard for what the tests were as far as like if a professor was going to give you multiple choice, or if a professor wanted a written essay for your test, or if a professor was going to give you a test on everything we learned that semester. There was no set standard in the school. Everything was its own.
Yeah.
The professors had free range to test however they saw fit, and certain professors would allow you to bring a I'm going to call it the one professor who really let us bring a note sheet. It wasn't even a note sheet. It was a 4x6 index card, and you were allowed to write on one side of it as small of print as you can manage anything you wanted.
Handwritten or printed?
Handwritten. And I learned how to write really small for that class, and I passed that class with flying colors because of that midterm that I had to take. Mm. So I know things were different for you 100%.
To where did you have, even in your majors, I'm actually asking you, and I know, shocker guys, Cody's a pretty outspoken personality. Even in your smallest class that you took, did any one of your professors know Cody Willis?
Oh yeah.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
figured just
so-
one of
No,
hundreds.
no.
I mean,
Well, we unfortunately you still are, but some of the professors really took. Now, here's the thing: the professors that were in your second 2 years, or even your last 3 years, right? When you start, really, the first year is the only one where you have large classes at issue. Your second year, you get down to like 25 to 50, and then your third year and fourth year, undergraduate, you're down into 20 to possibly 10 people. I had several management classes, that got down to 10 people. It got down quick.
I just assumed that it was always about 300.
No. First year was the only year I had 200, 300 people in my class.
So is that like the big weeding out year? Like, what do you think attributes that?
No,
Is that all your...
It's classes that every single major requires that they just cram you on. Psychology 101, sociology 101. No, English was still 40 people, 30 people, because it's just too hard to do with large groups. Math, definitely never had more than 30, maybe 25 people. I never had a math class with more than 30 people in my class. So it's just certain classes that were kind of like requirements for undergraduate individuals that had large groups. But getting into like the classes that I knew about, like, David Zhu, he was my professor that was strategic management. I stayed in contact with him for a couple of years after I graduated. No longer talk to him, but for probably 2 or 3 years after I graduated, send me emails once in a while, just ask him some questions. When I first started at CFM, and then one other professor I had a little bit of a good relationship. Oh yeah, my economics professor. I stayed in contact with him, but I also stayed in contact with my economics teacher from Basha. I actually sent her a couple of emails while I was at school.
You still talk to Ms. Rosanico?
When I was at ASU.
Okay.
When I was in school.
I was going to say
2 years, 3 years,
well,
right?
that's cool. I only talked to one teacher after I graduated.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
But still, interesting,
And it was
right?
the day I graduated from college.
It's not like I had fantastic relationships with them, but and 100% ASU.
Shout out Matt Strom if you're listening.
Mr. Strom, 100%. But ASU definitely, compared to your guys' experiences, I would never have expected. What John said was foreign language to me. Let me go to my teacher and go ask him to rewrite something or retake something. That was, maybe I never asked. Maybe I didn't think it was possible, but a couple times, I couldn't show up to class for a final test for whatever reason. I was either out of town, I was super sick or whatever. Fail.
Tough shit.
It was, hey, there is no retaking of a test because the answers are now out into the public, right? And that was the biggest issue with a big college is you could always find, like I always had a buddy that was already ready to sell, because if you had a Tuesday class and you had a Thursday class, the person that takes the final on Tuesday would sell their results to the Thursday people.
So let me tell you how babied we were. So let's say there's so we call our exams GRs, graded reviews. So let's say there's a GR on a Friday, and let's say we're playing up in Boise, so it's an away game for football. On the team playing, one of the professors from the damn department would literally sit in the middle seat, and I would sit in the aisle or whatever, and I would take my GR on the damn plane. If you were supposed to take that damn test on an M day or a T day, your professor or someone from that department was going to administer that damn test.
That's tax dollar money right there, huh, John?
what a waste.
Well, it was really funny. So whenever we're playing like University of Hawaii or San Diego State, super easy to get professors from various departments to volunteer to administer exams. But if we're playing like some shithole like
Idaho.
Wyoming or Idaho, very difficult. Like you have to volunteer people.
Okay, so John, was there anything when you were going to the Lake Forest? Was there anything that you envied of maybe a bigger school, or when you would travel? Because you had the fortunate ability to travel to other colleges and campuses. Was there anything that you were like, man, I'm kind of missing out on this college experience when you were at Lake Forest?
Just the quality of girls. That's
You
literally
had
it.
60% of 1,700. You greedy bitch.
I'm being honest. Everything outside of that,
I love that.
I wouldn't trade it.
I love that. So, guys, and for our listeners, you are a 22-year-old man
Horny as shit.
You're on the football team, right? And John's idea here, and you're just like, I am here at college to do two things: find my wife for life, possibly.
Thank you for starting with find. I was afraid
Yeah.
of that. I don't know if I was just anticipating.
I was going there too.
and graduate
Fine.
in 4 years.
Yeah.
Those are the two things.
Maybe that's how Cody operated. That wasn't on my mind at 21. That didn't happen until second semester.
Hell,
senior
ironically
year.
enough, Cody found his wife at 21.
Exactly. I found my wife for life, and not even in school. I was looking that hard. In school, out of school, everywhere.
They saw this blonde she-devil.
She's amazing. So, John, that's the thing that you always thought, hey, you know what? Maybe I should increase the pool of possible women here.
That was the only thing I ever wanted. Other than that, I had a
Because
great
a
time.
couple times you came into town, right, and visited me, and you're like, holy smokes, right? We're at ASU.
You guys have a freaking undie run.
We had that was the one thing that I always thought was funny when I was at school.
The only thing we had was toga for 2 years, and then they got rid of it.
We had an unlimited amount of people, males and females, that I would never meet. Every class that I enrolled in was a brand new group of people. I thought it was unique whenever I had somebody that I already had a class with. You would every semester you get a whole new set of classes, whole new set of people. So let's say every class I had 5 classes a semester, 5 on average. And let's say every one of those averaged 25 people, 125 people, right? Is that the math?
Sure.
So I would meet 125 people, a semester, brand new, never met them. You guys are like, I had the exact same 125 people with maybe 20 people getting in and out, probably.
So I think my college was about double of Lake Forest in size.
4,000. That's what I saw.
About 4,000.
Yeah.
So I would say freshman and sophomore. So honestly, freshman year, you're afraid of your own damn shadow. Like, you're not talking to anyone other than the football team.
You're trying to keep your books close to you.
Like, please,
Someone's gonna steal my lunch.
Please don't make me do fucking push-ups. Like, that's all I'm trying to avoid freshman year. Like, it sucks.
We lucked out there, John. Did you ever have to do push-ups by a professor in freshman year?
I think Jared said it was a fellow student.
There was a student.
Oh, even worse.
No, it was an upperclassman.
Probably doesn't happen anymore. That's hazing.
It was
in
an
today's
upperclassman.
world.
He asked me to greet him, and I did not know his name. I asked his name, and he made me do push-ups until I remembered his name. He heard the bell, and then he released me. And then upon me being late for class, the professor dismissed me from class for having an unexcused tardy.
That's the best story.
Told my commander, restricted me for a month.
Did you explain? Were you able to explain why you were late?
Nope.
I love that.
They didn't care.
I love that. So anyways.
And what would have happened? Just out of curiosity, what would have happened if you would have told the upperclassmen to pound sand? I'm seriously asking. Like, I'm going to be late for class. Fuck off.
It wasn't a surprise that I was going to be late for class. Like, he knew what he was doing. It was like, oh shit, I didn't realize it was.
And so my question is, if you would have said no, kiss my ass.
Remember what Jared started this. He started the sentence, as a freshman, you're afraid of your own shadow.
Yeah.
So that means,
And I'm
any
saying,
type
would
of
you have been
authority-
reprimanded for telling
any
a
type of
upper-
authority?
Absolutely, I would have been reprimanded. Had I questioned him or?
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, it's
for the common folk. They're like, why are you such a bitch?
Insubordination.
Common folk.
So I go from being restricted for a month to hell. I mean, depending on how big of a case they wanted to build against me, I mean, you're talking kicked out for insubordination. Man.
So your freshman year, bunch of random people.
Yeah.
Sophomore, junior, senior.
I'd say after sophomore year, once you're not afraid of your own shadow and actually allowed to look up, that's when you start seeing a lot of more familiar faces. And then probably by junior, senior year, if I don't know anyone in my class in senior year,
Everyone? You knew everyone?
I better know half the class. So you also have to understand, there's a TIZO gap. So this doesn't apply to the other two academies, but in the Air Force Academy, it's on a terrazzo, right? And something that's kind of funny is we often talk about the TIZO gap, the terrazzo gap. And it's essentially the NARPs versus the ICs. The NARP stands for non-athletic regular person. It's an incredibly offensive term to call an Air Force Academy an Air Force cadet there as a NARP. And then IC, an intercollegiate athlete. So it's really the football team versus everyone else because they all hate the football team because every Saturday home game, these poor bastards have to march on the field and, dance around for all the little spectators. So they make it seem like it's the football players like, yeah, coach, let's make them all march on for our games. It's like, dumbass.
Make them wave some flags or something.
Exactly.
Too.
So they hate the football team
in full uniform.
Yeah, so they hate the football team for that. So it's really the Tizo gap. So honestly, outside of your team from a football player, you don't really talk to that many people. Like, yeah, like you see them and they know you and you kind of know them. But you keep your circle real tight. And actually, it's really funny. I was actually talking to my buddies about this last week or 2 weeks ago and saying like, damn, I wish I would have taken more of a stance to maybe want to broaden my scope a little bit, but it just wasn't cool because I'm a football player. I don't want to hang out with those.
You had 3 guys in a class.
Because there's like a couple of our buddies that are doing some really cool shit right now. Yeah, they just separated about 2 years ago, and they are doing some really cool shit. And it's like, they'd probably tell me to kiss my ass.
well, in
know
that
what I mean?
instance, and John, I want you to chime in on this because you, of course, have very similar experience with the football stuff. But if you had a class in general, I'm guessing, Jared, you probably had 2, maybe 3 other guys that were on the football team in any general class. Yeah. And essentially, those classes, you would say, yeah, those are my 2 guys that I'm going to hang out with.
Yep, we did all our group projects together.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe you get one random guy or one random girl that was not in the class to chat with you. True?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. John, so your classes and you being on the football team, yes or no, is that similar to what you would say? Or is it kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I talked to the hockey guys. I talked to the rugby girls. I talked to the chemistry gals. I talked to the foreign exchange people from Georgia. Was it kind of a little bit more like, you know what? We're Forrester forever. Yeah, I have my buddies in the team, but was it not as sectional?
Definitely, it's clicky in spots and certain things. You're going to do certain things with your team, but you also had your friends on the other teams because you had class with them or you partied with them. But you typically stayed with your pack. It was very
even in the classroom.
Not so much in the classroom.
That's what we're trying to get to. Is in the classroom. Did it feel like, you know what? It was just 25 kids in a class. We're all trying to just get an A or a B to get by.
There was some, I'd call it tribalism in the class. Like you figured it out quickly because if you're taking politics classes like I did, you quickly figured out who the liberals were. You quickly figured out who the conservatives were. And then when you're taking a class, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no, I was almost cutting you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, John.
But then when you're taking a class that you're doing politics in the Middle East, and Israel is the subject, you have 2 Palestinians sitting right there, and then you have a Jewish kid sitting right here, and the Palestinian his argument, and I'm paraphrasing, but his argument was Israel is an illegitimate state and needs to be destroyed. And the Jewish kid goes, "Excuse me?" Yeah.
So that's out of curiosity. Yeah. Would you intentionally pick other the conservatives, or would you intentionally pick other liberals? What would you do?
Well, at that point, I don't even remember, John, I don't think, I think you were kind of middle ground. I remember multiple times. You were more middle ground than I think you were at that point. You were very much like, hey, you know what? I'm at a liberal college. I'm getting the experience.
Hey, I haven't met you yet, evidently. I'm Jared.
Could you speak into the mic, please?
I haven't met you yet. I'm Jared. What do you mean? John has never taken a middle ground on politics since he's been born.
John, please correct me. When you were there, I remember there'd be multiple conversations where it was like a little heated.
I was not
you were taking
purview to these
stances.
Conversations.
And I enjoy that. I enjoy where you're like, hey, you know what? There's nuance.
That's the whole point of this podcast.
Yeah, there's nuance to it. And I think
I didn't know that to be true.
I think at that point, you're like, you were a little
Can
more
you give
nuanced.
me a specific example, Cody? Because I think you're just stirring shit right now.
Okay,
if it's all for the clicks, I'll stomach it. Just admit it.
Not now.
We try not to be clickbaity.
No, I thought for sure there was a little bit more nuance to.
You do realize his parents are going to be listening to this, and you don't want to. You don't.
I don't even know what a podcast is.
Do you not believe there was more nuance to your views at that point? Okay, how about this? Let's
on certain subjects.
Let's just go for the last maybe 5-10 minutes here, guys. Let's start talking about how maybe college impacted your career, your politics, your family, how, when you went to college, you graduated and you're like, holy shit, let's just be honest, you're not an adult until you graduate, whether you graduate high school, when you're done with school, I would say.
So I think we did a podcast.
Exactly, right? So when you're done with school and you're saying, I'm going to go get a big boy, a big girl job, and I'm done with the whole, I'm going to a professor. How did that finish off? Whether you went in, graduated high school, you went to a trade school, went to a 4-year degree, went and got your master's, went and got a PhD. I don't care what you did. But when you got done with school, how did that impact some of your decisions? John, how about you start? So you graduated Lake Forest, you got a big boy job. How did that say, hey, you know what? I need to figure out if I want to start a family. I want to do XYZ for my job. I want to have kids. What was kind of like, this is what college gave me as a tool belt?
I think the thing college gives anybody is just as far as other than degree and learning what you went there to learn is it's just a sign of commitment. It shows that you're committed to something that is very tedious and takes more than just showing up.
So would you say that anyone that drops out of college early on is non-committal?
I'd say there's circumstances that warrant a dropping out. I'm not saying that. I'm
just trying to get a hot take here.
No, I think that I'm speaking in a generality here. I'm not speaking in an absolute by any sense of the imagination. But I think when you go to college, it shows a commitment. You committed to something, you see it through, and that's what life is at that point, is making a commitment to something, no matter how big or small, and seeing it through. And I think that's the thing that that it really showed me is that, yeah, this is going to suck having to do this 20-page paper on something that is absolutely absurd to write about because nobody cares about it and it's not going to affect me in the real world. However, if I'm bitching about this, how hard is life going to be actually when this type of thing actually matters?
So, I love that. I love that take because the shit sucks, right? Whatever it is, whatever you're doing, whether you're in college, whether you're at work, the shit sucks, but what's the result, right? In college, in your point of view, you were saying, the result is I'm going to get done with this and I'm going to move on to the next thing that I care about. Right? That's what you're kind of saying. Like, I wrote this page. I'm going to get this little piece of paper at the end of the day and I'm going to get a job that's going to possibly allow me to provide for my family, for myself, whatever it may be. Do you think it changed? Did Lake Forest change anything in you that was maybe innately already provided by your parents or high school or just by your upbringing? Do you think going to Lake Forest opened your eyes a little bit or reduced your eyes? What do you think?
Opened my eyes to a lot more cultures. I mean, I've lived in Arizona my whole life outside of going to Chicago for school and really let me see what else is out there, what other ways of life there are. As far as from just a life standpoint, not too much, but just being exposed to different, like our student exchange program where you got kids from India. One of my best friends is from India. And you guys have met him, you know what a crazy bastard he is. But hearing his take on certain things and how he looks at what America is compared to India, it really gave me all those types of perspectives to look at things at.
100%. Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
what about you, Jared? What do you think, man? Are you thinking when you went to school?
So let me understand the question.
How did the college experience, affect from if you graduated high school? You could have went on and married somebody. You could have went to a certain job. I'm not saying from like a skill set, but how did the experience, right, from being there, intermingling, possibly
ready you for the real world?
Professional discipline, those things. How did that ready you to go and say, you know what, I'm going to set goals for myself by certain ages to be married, to be retired, to have a job that I'm proficient in. What it do?
So I want to preface this answer where I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. I'm truly not.
You don't have to try.
And please poke holes. But what my college experience did, and whether it be false or true, but what my college experience did is it allows me to walk in with a reasonable amount of confidence that whatever task is in front of me, I'm going to figure it out.
Interesting. I don't think that's controversial. And I think that might be the value of college. I think,
and that's probably the most valuable skill that I learned, because I have been on some lows. You guys have heard me say this, and I'm sure even our listeners have heard me say this. The Air Force Academy does a fantastic job of kicking you when you're down, and I couldn't be more appreciative of every single metaphorical kick. Because, like I said, those kicks allow me, I don't give a shit what happens tomorrow. When I walk in the office tomorrow morning, there's something that's going to hit my desk that I'm not anticipating right now.
yeah.
100%. I with a mathematical certainty. I know that that's going to happen tomorrow. But I don't care, because I have the level of confidence that I need in order to where I may not know the answer right then and there, but I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And
that's funny. I was kind of thinking similarly. And the word that kept on coming through my mind is debilitating.
okay.
It reduces the actions that are debilitating to me. You know, when I think of that word, and I think of, you know what, there are many people that I've met that just become almost shells of themselves from one action, and they almost don't want to do anything. I shared with you, I think I shared it to you, John. There was a video of Jeff Bezos that said any inactions, and I just never thought about that.
Is an action.
And that becomes debilitating. I don't know if that word was used, but that was what I was thinking. And I was thinking, you know what? The cool thing about college, whether you go to a liberal college, a private school, a military academy, or a public school, what it says is, hey, this is a random professor with a random group of students with a subject you may not know nothing about, and you have to spend 6 months learning from A to Z. Guess what? Everything about that sucks. Figure it out.
I want to push on this a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Because you are a unique breed in that I believe you actually shared a statistic of 90%, and I would like you to elaborate on that. As far as the individuals that go to a public school and graduate in 4 years, what was that, 90%?
90% was actually the academy, and yours was 83, and mine was 52 or something.
What was the... Oh, as far as graduating 4 years?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So help me understand. So are we talking about our own individual experiences, or are we talking about our own individual institutions? Because I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, and this is where I'm trying to push back. Do you think the average, I'm talking about the average Joe out there, that goes to ASU, do you think they walk away from being an ASU graduate with that mentality? Or do you think that's Cody Willis's?
It's 52%, so I don't know how you do that math for average, but I guess that is the average, right? It's half and half, so I don't know if that is the average or not. I don't know how that makes sense, but I think large...
You get what I'm trying to ask, right?
Yeah, large universities definitely make it difficult to do it in a short period of time. I agree.
They do. I'm not refuting that. But what I'm saying is, hell, 48% don't graduate in 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's clearly not the majority, right?
No, it's not the majority. And I don't know how the average works there.
It's literally fucking 51, it sounds like, right? 48 versus 52.
Yeah.
So it seems like the average is graduating in 4 years.
I know.
So let's go one standard deviation to prove my point then.
It doesn't happen.
So do you think it's normal to feel, and this is where I'm not, because clearly I think a lot of you and a lot of your accomplishments, your demeanor, your acumen, et cetera, right? So I'm not attacking you here.
Yeah, I got you.
What I'm saying is, do you think that's the norm for a normal public school to have that sense of appreciation, to have that sense of accomplishment, to have that sense of, damn, now I know I can't find, and that's what I was trying to get at as far as the difference.
Yeah, and that's what I took after you said that. And after John, and one thing that I always valued, and I think I've undervalued it this entire time, and John has actually brought it to my attention multiple times unknowingly, and I don't award him for this, unfortunately, but he just brings it up, and I'm like, man, I probably...
Thank God this is recorded.
I did not think about this, and you bring it up, so that means that you think about it, and I just don't think about it, is that at ASU, I had such a cultural revolution almost, you could say. I was impacted by several individuals from, ASU has a large foreign student body, massive, right? Most of it is Asian American, Indian American. We have one of the largest student bodies from...
Is this because of the Intel feeder or what?
100%. right? You got a lot of grant money. You got a lot of, and it's just general. Like if you're going to come from another country, what school better than the largest school? Like it just makes sense, right? Like you're going to high acceptance rates, good climate, all the good things, right? But I always think of John says, hey, I got all this really cool cultural influence that being Arizona native, you didn't get here, right? You just didn't get it because you're in Arizona, Chandler, Gilbert, very small community. You go to Chicago and you're like, oh, there's different ways of living. And that was one thing that I don't know if I embraced it properly to understand all of the norms. But again, you're 20 years old. Like you're just trying to figure out how to make your class at 8 a.m. in the morning, right? Because if you don't show up, guess what? No one reminds you. No one cares.
Tell me how hard that 8 a.m. was.
Yeah. I had a 7 o'clock a.m. too.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Okay.
Slept in your
Guys,
bed.
so let's start closing this thing up.
Yeah.
Round it out.
I had a 7 a.m. too.
That
was your comeback.
I love
Jared
it.
didn't sleep in a bed. He slept on the floor.
Hey John, really appreciate you guys coming on, or you coming on for our first guest, I should say.
Thank you for having me.
What'd you think, man? Is this kind of fun, right?
It's interesting.
Can you understand why we're semi-addicted to this?
I mean, you guys talk like this whenever you get together. I don't know why you needed a podcast for it, but I do see why it's addicting for you.
Have
guys.
a beer, talk about fun stuff, and you do it in kind of like a...
It's great because we can tell our wives an excuse for drinking 3 beers on a Tuesday. Babe, I'm doing it
for our future.
for
the
future,
boys.
For our listeners.
For the boys.
For our future. No, for our future.
Jared, you had 4 beers.
We're going to
by the way.
monetize this.
Yeah.
So you're lying to Brittany.
100%. Okay, so thanks for listening, guys. Find us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all the places you find podcasts.
Guys, if you have a podcast that we're not on, let us know.
Yeah, we will add it. Also,
Please subscribe to them all.
we are now recording it and also uploading to YouTube. We'd love for you to give us a like, a subscribe.
Dude.
Punch that subscribe button.
I think I shared this with you. One of our listeners sent me a screenshot of on their big screen TV. It was you and I.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
Dude,
Rockstar.
I was cheesing like you wouldn't believe, man. That was
Smile,
so fun.
smile,
Yeah, that was so fun.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
so fun to see.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.